All right, welcome to CoachCon and the Strategic Coach first conference. We're very excited to be here and come together. My name is Patty Mara, and Solomon, just so you have a sense of who I am, I'm one of the coaches with Strategic Coach. I coach in the Toronto office, and I have a team engagement business development program for pharmacy owners, and I have a startup, we're launching an e-commerce platform for locally owned businesses this year. It's called We Choose Local. So that's me, and I'd like to find out more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I met you in Toronto in my first workshop. So my name is Solomon Thimothy, and we have a business called OneIMS. We work with B2B brands with their lead generation and customer acquisition. So we've been doing this for about 20 years, and we learned the ins and outs of what makes a good marketing strategy and sales strategy for B2B companies, and we implement that every single day.
Fabulous. I'm looking forward to digging into a little bit more, because that's certainly an arena that we all need. And Timothy, how long have you been in Strategic Coach?
So this is going to be my end of my first year, and going into the next year in a couple months.
Fabulous. So let's dive in a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's OneIMS.
That's right.
And so talk about who's your target audience? Who do you create value for?
Absolutely. So there's B2B and B2C, right? So B2C is, we're selling a toothpaste to whoever the consumer is. It's difficult, but it's mass marketing. But when you go to B2B, it's really laser targeting on this one person. So if I want to sell to Dan, I have to know Dan, and I need to know what kind of company he leads, what are his biggest pain points. So those are longer sales cycles than you and I making an impulse purchase at the, whatever, maybe seeing a commercial and, we just buy whatever. However, this is a much more, and there may be a group involved. He has 6 other people that need to get this approved. So those brands that sell to these bigger decision makers have a harder time getting in front of them. They have a harder time getting in front of the meeting, getting them to believe they're the right solution. So we amplify their marketing. So like at the end of the day, what we want to make sure is that people know there's enough demand for this company that they're reaching out to my clients as opposed to my clients reaching out to them. So when you get more inbound, the sales cycle is so much shorter, and you get much better customers that way, right? Kind of like how I would come to you at Strategic Coach. The second piece is we want to make sure that we're creating demand and capturing the demand of the client already in the marketplace. So it's a mixture of getting them, not just a new website, but actually leads filling out, booked appointments, and their opportunity pipeline is full. So it's a full cycle marketing that
Fabulous.
we would do. Yeah.
I think back to one of the Danisms, always be the buyer.
Yes.
One of the things I heard is you creating the marketing messaging so that people are coming looking for the company rather than always trying to push.
Exactly. That is actually probably one of the biggest wisdoms I've gotten out of, one of many. And what I mean by that is you have to decide who you want to work with.
Yes.
Right? And so we often, and we talked about this in breakfast today, this literally topic was talked about at breakfast today, where we often think we're the seller, but we're actually the buyer. And so we put that same kind of psychology into our customers, saying, hey, we want to know who should work with you, who do you want to go after, and then let's go create demand for you so that they reach out to you and say, this is your terms, this is what you do. But most of the time, people don't have that. Their marketing is not clear. Here's who I go after, or here's our ideal customer profile, here's the problems that we solve, because we're all good at the thing that we do. That doesn't make us really good marketers, right? Like we're really good at the widget making. We're geniuses, except when it comes to the world knowing what is it that we do, we're just not really, because that's not our forte. We don't have the who, let's put it that way.
Yes, yes, and I have to tell you, Solomon, you're a very important who for me. I am really good at creating content, I'm really good at delivering, I'm really good at shifting mindsets and engaging, empowering, and producing an outcome. And marketing, I'm really not.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you recognize that. Most entrepreneurs don't, and we work with those that do and understand that they know that they can capture a bigger part of their market share, except if they just have to get the word out, right? And it's not. It sounds super easy, but it's not, because your buyers or the people that are going to be buying your stuff are not easy to get to, right? So you got to get your message in front of those people that are laser targeted. So we do a fantastic job in that, and I think that's our niche.
Fabulous. Can you describe, Solomon, can you describe a little bit of your process? So
Yeah.
First of all, what are the type, do you have a specific type of business that you work
with.
best with? And then how do you, where do you start with them?
I love that. Absolutely. So first of all, we like to say it's B2B, long sales cycle, complex sales are the two things that we look at. So they're not just coming in, walking out with, you know, the product as Ace Hardware might be when you go look for tools. This is like, hey, we want to evaluate a payroll system. We want to evaluate the next IT system. We want to evaluate the database backup, whatever it is. Some B2B, something, you know, that is business critical, yet they don't want to just make a quick decision. The complex sales is there's multiple people involved, and so that would be the thing. So what we actually implement, I think that's the fascinating part that any business could actually emulate while we focus on this one kind of client. We created what's called the growth formula, Patty. This is absolutely like the thing that has been the game changer. The way that we understood this is that we looked at all of our customers the last 20 years. We looked at all of them, put them on a sheet of paper, like look at all their strengths, weaknesses. There's these top 5%, maybe 10% that are crushing it. They're doing really well. Let's just say the free frontier, you know, like free zone frontier.
Yes.
They're just like amazing numbers. We just can't understand what they're doing right. And then there's a lower, the next tier is like, they're doing great, way better than their industry average, still crushing. And then there's like the next tier is like, they're not doing that well. And we're like, what are they doing different than these really, really top, you know, customers? And we realized that there's two things that they're actively engaged in with us and, you know, different vendors and whatever. It's like they have an acquisition system working and they have a retention system working. So they're like acquiring new prospects into their funnel and also closing them and also keeping the leads that they didn't close and also keeping their customers. So we said, okay, there's an acquisition engine and a retention engine. So we wrote the formula, acquisition plus retention equals growth, except there's two things inside of each of those engines. On the acquisition side, they were capturing demand, which is the 5% of the market that really needs your service right now. And they're also creating demand, which is the 95% of the market that they don't even know that you exist. You're creating content like you're doing, you're getting, you know, speaking engagement, whatever it is that you're gonna like warm them up to become that 5%. They were doing both of that really, really well. And so we said, okay, well, we got to capture the demand, which is the thing that any business should be doing right now. If you go Google your product or service, and if you don't show up somewhere, that means that person who's looking for you, you're nowhere to be found. You're not capturing the demand. So if you sit there and make stories all day on Instagram or carousel post on LinkedIn and all of the things that we think are marketing, you're only creating the demand, which is 95% of the people. They're not ready yet. They don't even know that they have this problem. It's not itching. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
It's going to be 3 months, maybe 3 years. So you have to do both at the same time. On the right-hand side, on the retention side, you have to keep the leads that you've generated. So stay top of mind, otherwise they're going to fall off and they're going to go with someone else because, right, somebody else is doing that. And also you want to retain the customers that come in the door. So retention engine is working really hard. The acquisition engine is working really hard. You try to do this, you realize that you really need a who team.
Absolutely.
It is not like somebody can just run the business and also go in at home and like send some email marketing and then get these two systems to work. So we just specialize in implementing the growth formula for businesses.
Fabulous.
And we teach it all day long. And any small business, medium-sized business should be doing something like that.
Yes. There's a couple things, Solomon, I want to highlight because I think they're so important. You know, I'm really good at my business.
Right.
And I need a sounding board to reflect back. Even though I know my customer, it's hard for me to see, you know, what am I doing? I know what I'm doing for them, but it's then what's the benefit for them and why is it important for them?
Right.
And it, you know, it takes that whole exercise to really, and I always find it's so much easier if I have a sounding board reflecting it back, because that frees me up to be in my unique ability.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And the other piece that you said that I think is so, so important, we're all out there, you need to be on social media, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing blog posts, you need to be posting articles, you need to be, and all of that's fantastic. It's a lot of busy work. And where is it pulling it all together to produce a result?
Absolutely. So going to the first point there, people buy when they feel understood, right? Like, so we would do all of this.
That's a gold nugget.
Yeah, exactly.
I really want to emphasize that. Say it again, because it's a gold nugget.
People buy when they feel understood.
Right.
Like, I told you my problem, then I feel like, hey, you really understood what I'm doing, and I'm like ready to sign. But when we try to tell me all the things that I'm supposed to do, we don't feel understood, and it's a challenge. So, that's one of the things that we want to make sure, like you said, you need a sounding board. You want to make sure that whatever you're saying out there, that explains to the buyer that you understand their pain.
Yes.
You understand what's it like to be that CEO or an entrepreneur or a pharmacist, anything, that the problems that they're facing is very relevant to you, and also you have a solution for them. And if they don't understand that, they're just going to go right past it. A confused mind never buys. They see like too many options. I'm not sure what I should do. I'm not going to do anything, right? And as for the other point, and remind me what the second piece is that you were talking about. I think you were.
What was I talking about?
Yeah.
The busy work.
The busy work. Exactly.
You know, so your output, that you're talking about the 95%, but
Exactly.
are you
How do you
pulling
pull
it
that
in? Yes.
So we typically tell our customers, especially when they come to us and say, hey, 5% of the market is what you're going to make the most money on right now.
Yes. Very
So
good.
if you want to grow your business in the next quarter, I'm not going to teach you how to create content on LinkedIn, which I think is a very powerful part. I'm going to grab the market that actually wants a sales conversation right now. So that's like heavy duty, direct response kind of stuff, right? Like, we're going to do anything we can to get those people that are in market ready to buy. So, and then once that's done, which is where a lot of marketing dollars is spent on creating demand, not capturing demand.
Right.
So they spend a lot of money with the 5K run and this, and you know what I mean? The community event, the charity, and the newspaper, and the magazine, and everything, and say, well, we didn't get anything for it. Well, did these people even need your products and services? Is that where the dollar should have been spent? And if it sounds simple as possible, if I put that money on Google, hypothetically, and they're Googling your products and services, that's capturing demand. Because you're right, your money is there, and if you don't show up there in my world, like, you're not capturing the demand. That's just one avenue. You could do that on YouTube, you could do that on any platform, but if they're looking for you and you're not there, then you're not capturing demand. So we put all of this budget, by the way, towards that. Same concept as the 10x is easier and 2x. 80% of money is spent on all the wrong channels.
Right.
And they should double down on the thing that actually captures that. So the concept is there. And then once that's done, we taped it up, we're good. Then I'll come to you and say, hey, we need to create content. We need to make short form video content. We like that podcast, because we want to now nurture everybody else. So when our competitors trying to do it, they see this big moat of Dan's podcast, you can't even come near it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's Warren Buffett style. Like, they've created so much content and webinars and all these resources and tools and everything else like any brand would want to do. It's there already to cover it when that person understands they have a problem. They come and say like, oh my gosh, fantastic. And I think that's where it fits in, is once you've captured all the demand, then you should be investing the time, but that's less stress though.
Yes.
Because you're now thinking about a
You've
year
got
ahead.
a closing that's working, now you're filling the funnel.
Exactly, yeah, it's more towards the top of the funnel, and then that, I believe that funnel should be as wide as you can make it, because the bigger it is, the better off you are.
A business coach that I had a wonderful conversation with once, she shared a Tony Robbins quote,
Yeah.
you want to market narrowly and serve broadly.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Right, and when she found out, when she was writing her book, she identified her target, like really narrow target audience of professional licensed women.
Got it.
And as soon as she did that and they got the language for their issues, her business exploded.
Wow.
Right,
Yeah.
but and again, I'm back to, it's also sometimes a challenge for entrepreneurs, because we want to get out there and create value, and we can do this, and we can help this person and this company, and so part of it is being very clear right up front.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the part that you can't even start doing any of this until we make sure that the language makes sense.
Yes.
Right? That the messaging makes sense. And if you have to test it, you have to test it. If you have to run ads to test it, run ads to test it. It doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, what's at stake is millions of dollars. Right? Like, if you can't get the message across, if pharmacists aren't really resonating with it, then it doesn't matter how good we are.
That's right.
We could be the best in the world. They don't
Yes.
understand what we do.
Yes.
So maybe we got to get a couple of pharmacists here. Do you like this? Do you like that? Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Solomon, just shifting gears a little bit, what have you found, what's been the impact of being in Strategic Coach on your thinking and on your business and what you see the future represents?
Absolutely. I told you I got a selfie with Dan yesterday.
Yes.
And I think it's very different now. I came from marketing. I went to school for marketing, so I lived in this like marketing world. Everything I joined would be marketing programs, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you can only get so big. And so this was different because, again, early on in my business career, so I went through E-Myth and all these different things to get the business off the ground, right? Like that was very powerful stuff, process development and team building, all this stuff. You've gotten all that. And so like Dan's concepts are very different. As I've been taught by you and other coaches, it's thinking about your thinking.
Yes.
Which a lot of entrepreneurs don't do. Right? And I think we're go-getters. I'm a quick starter, so like I'm a 3-3-7, whatever, 2. And so I'm ready to start and everybody else is starting. We're just starting, and we just make a lot of mess and then we just move on. we don't have a Babs to clean the thing or build up the parts that we started, So I think I've learned that more about myself. I learned that the who's that I need to have in the team, and it's more of how entrepreneurs like us get paid is very different than what I thought, right? Like it's just, these concepts were very different from me learning the fundamentals of business building and process development and systematizing the business, which I thought, but there's even more deeper things that I'm uncovering about myself and the people around me and their unique abilities and how they operate and how we're going to be building partnerships and, building 10x businesses. I think they're just really different concepts altogether.
It's great. What do you think being in the program, how does that impact what you're thinking about for your future?
Well, first of all, I think there's 2 types of people. I just generalizing here as entrepreneurs, right? There's those folks that see the challenges, and there's those folks that see opportunities. So right now, everything around us, the AI, it's either a challenge or it's going to be an opportunity. Well, you look at something else, maybe labor shortage, or if you're in finance and there's interest rates and there's all this demand is softening. And I mean, I hear every challenge, pipeline's harder. B2B companies or those bigger decision makers, they're putting the decision off for hold for a little bit longer because they may not know what's around the corner, right? Like there's these challenges like, so is that an opportunity or are we going to take it as, oh my gosh, are we doomed? Is there, and so if you're in Dan's world or you're in kind of this kind of, you're an entrepreneur trying to become the 10x version of it, I see them all as opportunities.
Right.
And I sit with people that feel all of them as opportunities. And so the rest of the world and the media tells you one thing and you're like, I don't see any of that. Show me one part where this is not going to be an opportunity for us to grow. Now, it could put you out of business if you're not thinking the way that you're supposed to think.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. It's kind of like, more millionaires were created out of the Great Depression in the last century, and yet, if you drove a cart and a horse delivering milk, you were put out of business unless you adapted.
Absolutely. So I think that's one of the things. And you also have to be crazy enough to be an entrepreneur in the first place. Like this isn't for most people, right? And so when I put the 2 together, I see that like, okay, the concepts are fantastic, especially when we have this like crazy shift happening in the marketplace. We got to use those things to turn these things that could be potentially bad for you if you did nothing into opportunities and new business opportunities. For us. So like we use AI, and marketing was getting disrupted, but we use that to increase the probability of our customers closing business. We look and say, what can we learn about this particular client? And we can just have AI tell us all their main challenges so that I can prep the salespeople that are calling on behalf of my clients to know the challenges before they get on the call. So like instead of doing hours and hours of research, trying to learn this one brand, one challenge. So can I use that as a way to disrupt me, or am I going to use that to make it a product, right? So the other things is, obviously Google uses AI. Well, we have access to all the tools as well. So what we're going to evaluate the pages that we're optimizing, evaluate it based on what's on the first page of Google. And then we look at that and say, well, what do we need to do to make Google happier with my page? But AI does the research for me. Fabulous. I don't have to do it.
Yes.
So there's an opportunity.
Yes, absolutely.
Another thing, I'll just end with that because I don't want to go too deep into this, is first page of Google is like the best real estate, right? You think about it. If you're on first page of Google, I've met so many people that, hey, that's their lead generation. They don't have to do anything. And everybody's trying to get there, right? And so the challenge is, and Google looks at one thing, which is, are you answering the question the best of the ability? You know, if a user types in a question, do you get the best answer? That's the secret. But there's so many people there, and they have 2,000 words, 5,000 words, 10,000 words, and you might be writing 8,000 words. But what Google really cares about, did you answer their question as well as possible? AI can read my content, AI can read their content, tell me what am I doing well, better, and what are they doing better. So hard to do that with a human. We use AI to do that.
It's fantastic. That is another brilliant gold nugget. I mean, take away from our conversation, just even starting to look at that for your Google ranking, that's brilliant.
Yes, exactly. So is AI going to disrupt us, or is it going to be an opportunity?
Or is it a harness tool?
It's harnessing me to do more for my clients faster and more efficient than to say it's going to take us 6 months to read all of the pages and your content, and I'm going to evaluate and I'm going to come with an essay.
Perfect
I could
scenario.
do this in 6 days.
Yes, very
good. And I can be faster, and Google's changing and we're changing. And so I think all of this is leading to something that can be an opportunity for business owners to grow, folks like me, folks like you, to use the tools that are available at our fingertips that aren't expensive by any means, but just use it to, you know, automate, you know, make it more robotic and get more done.
Love it. All right, well, just bringing this to a close, Solomon, first of all, it's been a real privilege and pleasure, so thank you for being my guest. How can people get a hold of you? How can they find out more from you?
Absolutely. So our company is OneIMS, is oneims.com, and I literally go in as many podcasts and shows and create video content as possible to help as many folks as possible. Literally, like, all my stuff is free. Why? Because I want to make sure that we help as many folks as possible get the tools that they need so they can grow the business in whatever industry that they find themselves in.
That's fantastic. You create huge value. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And I'm Patty Mera. This is CoachCon. I hope you enjoyed this snapshot of what we're doing here with Strategic Coach.